In mid-June 2025, the world watched as a dangerous conflict erupted in the Middle East. It began with a surprise Israeli airstrike targeting Iran's nuclear facilities and key military figures. This action triggered a swift and powerful response from Tehran, which launched its own missile and drone attacks against Israeli targets. The United States quickly became involved, supporting its ally Israel in what became a tense 12-day air war. This conflict, which ended with a fragile ceasefire on June 17, 2025, did not just cause destruction and loss of life. It also shook the very foundations of global nuclear security, raising profound questions about the systems designed to prevent such catastrophic events from ever happening. The international community has long relied on a framework known as the Nuclear Non-Proliferation System. This system is built around treaties and agreements, most notably the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, or NPT. Its primary goal is straightforward but incredibly important: to prevent the spread of nuclear weapons and weapons technology. It aims to encourage the peaceful use of nuclear energy while working towards the ultimate goal of complete nuclear disarmament. This regime is designed to act as a global safeguard, providing a diplomatic and legal barrier to stop countries from developing these incredibly dangerous arsenals and to deter nations from attacking each other's nuclear programs. However, the recent military strikes against Iran have exposed a critical weakness in this global safety net. The very act of bombing a country's nuclear sites, which were under the watch of the International Atomic Energy Agency, represents a direct challenge to the non-proliferation regime. The system was unable to deter this military action, making it appear ineffective in a moment of crisis. When powerful nations decide that military force is a better option than diplomacy and international oversight, it undermines the trust and cooperation that the entire non-proliferation structure depends on. This conflict has set a worrying precedent for how nations might deal with suspected nuclear programs in the future. This erosion of the non-proliferation system creates a far more dangerous world for everyone. If countries believe that international agreements cannot protect them, they may feel compelled to pursue their own nuclear weapons for self-defense. This could trigger a new arms race, particularly in a volatile region like the Middle East. The conflict demonstrated that the established rules and norms could be bypassed, sending a message that military might can trump international law. The system that was built to prevent wars over nuclear ambitions was, in this instance, unable to stop one, leaving the world a more uncertain and less secure place. From Moscow, the reaction to the conflict was swift and severe. Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov described the war as a severe blow to the entire global nuclear non-proliferation regime. He argued that the attacks, carried out by Israel and supported by the United States, showed that the system had failed in its core mission to prevent such military actions. In Russia's view, this was not just a regional skirmish, but a fundamental challenge to the international order. The Kremlin had warned the United States that its direct involvement would radically destabilize the Middle East, a warning that now seems prophetic as the region grapples with the aftermath of the fighting. Russian officials expressed deep concern that the world had come perilously close to a major catastrophe. Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova stated that the strikes brought the world millimeters from a potential nuclear disaster, highlighting the grave risks of attacking nuclear facilities. President Vladimir Putin had called for de-escalation and even offered to mediate the conflict, an offer that was not accepted by the warring parties. This diplomatic effort underscores Russia's position that negotiation, not military force, is the only acceptable path forward. Russia, which signed a 20-year strategic partnership with Iran in January 2025, has significant interests in regional stability, making the conflict a direct threat to its strategic goals. Ryabkov's comments reflect a broader Russian perspective that the existing security architecture in the Middle East is broken and needs to be completely rethought. The war, he argued, proves that new foundations for security are necessary, especially in the Gulf region. This view is informed by Russia's long-standing diplomatic relationships and its economic investments in Iran, which include billions of dollars in energy and infrastructure projects. The conflict not only endangered these investments, but also complicated Russia's already strained relationship with Israel, which has been tested by the ongoing war in Ukraine. Russia sees the conflict as a symptom of a larger problem that requires a new, more inclusive security dialogue. Ultimately, Russia's statements frame the conflict as a failure of Western policy and a dangerous move that undermines global stability for everyone. By bypassing international institutions and resorting to military force, the United States and Israel have, in Moscow's view, weakened the very rules that keep the world safe from nuclear proliferation. Russia, alongside China and Pakistan, called for an emergency meeting of the United Nations Security Council to address the crisis. This diplomatic push highlights Russia's insistence on a multilateral approach to security, standing in stark contrast to the unilateral military action it so strongly condemned. The message from Moscow is clear. The path of confrontation has made the world less safe. The 12-day air war undoubtedly caused significant harm to Iran's nuclear program. Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov acknowledged that the program had sustained significant damage, but he was quick to challenge the narrative coming from Washington and Jerusalem. He dismissed claims from American and Israeli politicians that Iran's nuclear capabilities had been completely wiped out or destroyed. Ryabkov labeled these assertions as mere wishful thinking and a dangerous exaggeration of the reality on the ground. The true extent of the damage is still being assessed, but it is clear that key facilities, including the Fordow site, were targeted in the attacks. While the program was damaged, it was far from eliminated. This outcome creates a perilous situation. Iran has now seen its facilities attacked, its scientists killed, and its sovereignty violated. This experience could strengthen the arguments of hardliners within the country who believe that only the possession of a nuclear weapon can guarantee the nation's security against future attacks. Instead of ending Iran's nuclear ambitions, the war may have inadvertently provided a powerful new reason to accelerate them. The strikes have pushed Iran into a corner, and its response, as Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei warned, could have irreversible repercussions as it re-evaluates its security needs. The attacks also created a serious proliferation risk that has alarmed international observers. The United Nations nuclear safety watchdog, the IAEA, confirmed that it has lost track of Iran's stockpile of enriched uranium due to the damage and chaos caused by the strikes. This is a nightmare scenario for non-proliferation experts. Without proper monitoring, there is no way to know where this nuclear material is or what it might be used for. The potential for this material to be diverted to a secret weapons program, or even to fall into the wrong hands, has increased dramatically, making the situation far more dangerous than it was before the conflict began. This combination of a damaged but not destroyed program and the loss of international oversight is a recipe for instability. Experts are now debating the future of nuclear safety with a new sense of urgency. Some argue that the military action has set back Iran's program by years, buying valuable time for diplomacy. However, many others, including Russian officials, contend that it has only made the world less safe by breaking international norms and potentially pushing Iran to develop a bomb in secret. The debate is no longer just about whether Iran's program is peaceful. It is now about managing the dangerous fallout of a war that has shattered the status quo. To pull the world back from this precarious edge, the first step must be a renewed and urgent commitment to diplomacy. The military option has been tried, and it has left the region more volatile and the world less secure. The immediate priority should be to re-establish international monitoring of Iran's nuclear program. This requires rebuilding trust between Iran and the international community, particularly the IAEA. European diplomats from Germany, France, and the United Kingdom have already initiated talks with Iran in Geneva, wisely doing so without the United States at the table for now. This could provide a crucial starting point for de-escalation and a return to verifiable inspections. A broader effort is needed to create a new security framework for the Middle East, as suggested by Russia's Sergei Ryabkov. The old approaches have clearly failed. A more stable future requires a regional dialogue that includes all major powers, including Iran, Saudi Arabia, Israel, and Turkey. The goal should be to establish a zone free of nuclear weapons and other weapons of mass destruction in the Middle East. This is a long-term and ambitious goal, But the recent conflict demonstrates why it is so necessary. Lasting security cannot be achieved through bombs and threats. It must be built on mutual understanding, shared interests, and verifiable agreements. The great powers, especially the permanent members of the United Nations Security Council, have a special responsibility to lead this effort. This means strengthening the Non-Proliferation Treaty and ensuring that its rules are applied fairly and consistently to all nations. When powerful countries ignore international law to pursue their own security interests, it encourages others to do the same, leading to a cycle of instability and conflict. The United States, Russia, and China must find common ground on this issue, moving beyond their geopolitical rivalries to reinforce the global norms that prevent the spread of nuclear weapons. Their cooperation is essential to restoring faith in the non-proliferation system. Ultimately, nuclear safety is not an abstract concept for diplomats and experts to debate. It is a matter of survival for every person on this planet. The recent war in the Middle East has served as a terrifying reminder of how quickly regional conflicts can escalate and threaten global stability. A single miscalculation, a single attack on a nuclear facility, can have consequences that ripple across the globe for generations. The lesson from this crisis is clear. The only path to a secure future is through a steadfast commitment to diplomacy, international law, and the shared goal of a world free from the shadow of nuclear war. This is a responsibility we all share.